can start talking while people roll in. My name is Rachel. I'm part of our product support team here at Wellfound. I'm really excited to share this Q&A with you today. Ask a Recruiter, Navigating the Blockchain and AI Job Market with Hilary Wagner, Head of Talent at Flexa. Thanks so much for joining us, Hilary. We're going to be introducing her fully in a moment. Well, hopefully I'll catch everybody who's joining us at that time. So before we get started, I want to talk a little bit about today's format. So it's pure Q&A. Hilary's going to answer our questions, and we're hoping that it will be engaging and that it'll also be interactive so that you can participate. We're going to start with 5 intake survey questions to warm up. So these are questions that you asked when you signed up for today's Q&A. And then while we're talking you can start to ask your questions in the chat. Feel free to indicate if you want to read them out loud or if you'd like me to ask them out loud for you. I'm happy to do either, especially if you're in a noisy place. And you can also, while we get started on the live Q&A, just raise your hand using the Zoom hand raise feature to ask your question out loud, and I'll call on you to ask it out loud. The last thing that we ask is that we hope that you please be respectful. We're a community here, and Hilary has been so generous with her time. So please make sure to be thoughtful with your questions and with the other participants over the call. Thanks so much for joining us. So before I introduce Hilary, I just want to introduce Wellfound a bit, just in case anyone here is joining through LinkedIn or not through our Wellfound emails. Wellfound is a jobs marketplace. We were formerly AngelList Talent. We've been around for over 10 years, and we specialized with hiring for startups. And now we specialize with hiring for tech for a wide range of different companies, so enterprise, startups, agencies, etc. Oh, sorry, skipped ahead. We've made over 8 million matches. We have over 150,000 tech jobs in our system, and we have over 10 million startup-ready candidates as well. So we're a big network. We really pride ourselves on helping candidates with the application process. You'll see a few other people on this call with the Wellfound backgrounds who are all from our team, and we're the type of people you'll reach out to if you need help while you're applying through Wellfound. So just know that we're the faces on the other side of the email. So to the good stuff. We're really excited to have Hilary Wagner here, our guest speaker, Head of Talent at Flexa. She has a track record of success in leading global talent acquisition and hypergrowth scaling in tech, with experience spanning NA, EMEA, LATAM, and APAC. Currently, she is the head of talent at Flexa, the global leader in digital payment solutions and operations advisor for Rare Compute, a decentralized biotech platform. She is also an accomplished speaker and author. Thank you so much for coming today, Hilary.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Okay, let's get started on some of these first questions. So our first question was about entering the market. So Stacy asks, as someone whose values are transparency, community, and collaboration, these values very much align with Web3, but how best to position oneself without direct blockchain or AI experience?
Yeah, and this is a great question because so many people ask this, and whether, I'm going to assume this is someone, because I think we kind of get into having engineering experience, but not blockchain or AI, where do you start type of questions further on. But right now, if I looked at this as somebody who wants to get into blockchain or AI and just maybe doesn't have any of that experience whatsoever, maybe isn't even in tech. And so I want to say maybe it was Jobs and Crypto or another site, and approximately 40% of Web3 jobs are non-technical positions. And the number of Web3 jobs has increased by over 100% in the past year. That's a lot. So just think of that explosion, 6 months from now or a year from now, especially with all the investment that's being made into AI in the United States and every other country. And there are a ton of roles that can get you into the blockchain space or AI or wherever you want to be that really have not much to do with the technical aspects of it, right? So you can get into community management, right? Like those people who manage those giant Discord channels for whatever token or, blockchain company or AI company that they are, right? They're managing that community. And in blockchain and AI, those communities are crazy. There is a lot of people who are really excited about these companies, and they need someone who can really manage that community effectively. Marketing is another big one, content creation, people who can write about it, right? And business development and sales, of course. There will always be a need for business and development and sales in any industry. And blockchain and AI are not immune to that. We all need salespeople. And then also, there's AI ethics. That's another interesting field to get into, right? Because we do need to make sure we're being ethical in AI companies and we're using AI ethically, right? You don't want to, let's just say you're on an AI image generator, right? And you keep typing in certain things and you keep getting kind of these biased results, things like that, right? Why is that happening, right? These are things that shouldn't be happening. So getting into a role in, say, IA ethics could be very valuable, especially as, this industry keeps exploding and exploding. And if you really don't have a ton of familiarity in blockchain or AI, that's okay. But if you really want to get into one of these non-technical types of roles, you got to get going and get started and just learn those blockchain fundamentals, and how they enable decentralization, the different platforms, whether it's Ethereum, Solana, et cetera, and like the key concepts, right? DeFi, NFTs, even DeSci, DAOs, et cetera. And then take those online courses. There are so many courses available. And a lot of them, they're either very inexpensive, right? They're very affordable, or they're free. A lot of them you can do for free. You can even, some of them, they'll let you audit, right? You won't get the certificate at the end of the course that says you graduated, blah, 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 blockchain course or AI course, but you still learn the knowledge, right? So if it's something, you aren't in a position to pay for, or you don't want to pay for, or whatever the reason, right? You can do it that way as well. So you really got to do your research on that, whether it's through Google, like you can do free AI learning through Google, right? At no cost to you. And Coursera is one of those where you can learn about the blockchain or AI and just audit it, things like that. So always make sure you're checking that out. And join those Web3 communities, right? If you want to become a community manager, someone on the marketing side or business development, whatever, join those communities, get to know the players, get to know those groups. And it's funny, like they are the nicest people ever, right? You're going in Web3, there's, and Stacey, that is why I like this question, is because, you said these values of transparency and community and collaboration really align with me. And everyone I've dealt with in this space has been amazing. Of course, like any industry, you're going to run into somebody you probably don't like. That's just natural. But by and large, it's such a great group of people, and they want to support newcomers, and a lot of them will help you and guide you. And then webinars, podcasts like this, there's all types of free things you can attend that you can really like gain that knowledge. And then I would say, last but not least, start offering yourself up. Look for foundations, right, who are just starting up, and say, hey, can I help you? I want to get into this space. Do you need help in this area or that area? You'll be surprised how many people will say, that's interesting, right? Because who wouldn't want the help, especially if you're a startup or you're starting a foundation like a nonprofit, right? Generally, you don't have a lot of money to go around when you're kicking things like that off until you do all that fundraising and things like that. So help raise funds, right? Really like get in there, into that community one way or another. So yeah, so that's my long-winded answer to that.
Sorry, I had my mute on. That was a great answer. Thank you so much. I love the details and like different options to enter the market. The next question we have is screening process transparency. So what am I doing wrong when I don't pass the recruiter's screen?
Yes, Sean, this question broke my heart. I was like, what is happening for this poor guy? But here's the thing, you could be doing nothing wrong. There are so many factors that go into a company and what they're looking for when they're hiring any type of role, let alone blockchain or AI, right? It, you know, in a lot of cases, it may be a situation where there's just certain things they're really, really looking for, and possibly, like if let's say they really need someone with GCP, Google Cloud experience, like they have to have that, or someone who's really good at programming in Go. If you're, maybe have 2 years of it, but you've only used it a little, then unfortunately, they're not going to be able to move forward with you, right? They need a lot of these companies are really going to want to hire that top talent in that little field. It may have nothing to do with whether you have tons of blockchain or AI experience. It may be like these little engineering areas where you need more work. It may also be, things like culture, right? Sometimes, this was a while ago. I actually interviewed with hiring manager for a crypto company, and he basically laid it out to me that this would be like not a great place to work. Like, and I could tell him, like, and you are not an individual I want to work for. And so, I self-selected out of that. But a lot of times I think that there's something to be said that sometimes a recruiter might say, oh my gosh, this person is not going to survive here. This is a rough environment. And a lot of cases they're not allowed to say that, right? It's very rare that a recruiter is going to tell you, oh, hey, this is a really crappy place to work, right? They can't do that. That's not how they stay employed. So basically, they're looking for people who may be a little bit more tough-minded, with a little more experience, who can kind of roll in a tough work environment. Or it could possibly be a situation where sometimes it's really going to be based on just nuances, right? Like it could be the smallest thing, and really it has nothing to do with you. Like, let's say, for example, they're looking for specific educational backgrounds, and they interview you and based solely on, oh, he comes from this school or that school, which is a really dumb way to interview people, let's be honest. But let's say they do that, and then they're talking to you and they realize, oh, he's great, but really let's just say the hiring manager or the recruiter didn't look close enough. He's only got 2 years experience, so I can't really, CTO Joe is not going to like that. There's all these little nuances in companies that you don't know about, and that most likely they're not going to share with you on why they didn't pass through. And what a recruiter thinks sometimes, like there's, a lot of times I talk to a candidate, I'm like, wow, this person is great. And then for whatever reason, the hiring manager is a no, right? And that can be anything from, let's say a very, very jumpy resume where it's 9 months here, 6 months here, a year here. And even if you say, well, they had a couple layoffs, et cetera, sometimes that's just that stuck in a hiring manager's head as a red flag, et cetera, and they can't get past that. Same with recruiters, right? That may worry them, that you're not going to stick around a long time. It's things like that. So you could talk about this question for hours, and we won't, obviously, but sometimes it is 1000% nothing to do with you. And I just want you to know that there could be absolutely nothing you're doing wrong, and you're a wonderful candidate and a great person. And it's just there's 300 other wonderful candidates and great people that applied, and maybe one just inched you out in certain ways. And so that's why it was a pass.
Thanks. That's very thoughtful explanation of how that hiring manager to candidate screening can sometimes not, represent a full fit. Um, I think it's helpful for candidates to know that because it's so
Yeah,
important.
for sure.
Okay. Chris asks, mostly what's changed in today's hiring environment because of AI? And what can I expect to be different now versus in 2020 or earlier when I was looking for a job? So I think there's,
Well,
yeah.
lots of things have changed. My goodness, where do I start with that? Um, so there's good and bad, right? There's going to be, really good algorithms that when you apply for a specific role, they'll tell you, oh, hey, Chris is a great candidate for this. Look at him. All of this lines up really well. He has, 3 years of Rust experience and Golang, and he provided his portfolio link, whatever it is, right? Like any of that, which really does help analyze things and get the absolute correct qualified people to the top of the pile. There is automated resume screening as well. I don't really use automated resume screening, but what I do love, like the ATS I use the most is Team Taylor. They have an awesome AI piece where it will summarize. So when I hover over a candidate's name, like it's kind of, in rows, and I hover over someone, I get a pop-up that gives me this awesome summary of their background. And I can look at that right away and say, oh, wow, boom. And it just helps me go a little bit faster. There is a ton of AI-driven interview tools that are coming out or have come out. Talent Llama is one in particular. I met the founder at RecFest last year. He was amazing, great guy. And it's basically for engineers, right? And it's very intuitive what he's doing, wherein if they're asking you, let's just say your experience in Haskell, and your answer is a little vague, the AI knows to go a little bit deeper. So it actually knows how to dig in a little and get more information out of that candidate, which is really cool and unique, right? And when you think about it, if it's asking you the right questions and getting that information either to the recruiter or the hiring manager faster, I think that's huge. I have not had the opportunity to use a tool like that yet. I'm very excited to, just to kind of see what it does. And okay, this is one thing. This is a negative. This is a very bad negative. There have been mass applications and increased competition because of those tools that allow job seekers to apply to jobs in bulk. The AI tools that are for bulk apply, they make it so hard for recruiters to get through that candidate pool. I can tell you back in 2020, the candidate pool, you got, let's say 300 to 400 applicants, you would be like, holy Moses, this is astronomical. I've never had this many applicants in my life. And that's when I first noticed like kind of that creep on applications. Now, like for my open roles at Flexa, I have over 1,000, right? And a lot of them are uniquely unqualified for the role, and it clogs up the system. I go through everyone. I don't ignore resumes, but it's one of those situations where it hurts job seekers, and it actually hurts recruiters as well, because it is taking up unnecessary time to go through these candidates that don't match the role at all. And it's unfortunate, and I wish something could be done about it. And I really do think that there is a bigger focus on skills versus credentials with AI. For me personally, I could care less where you went to school. I could care less how many degrees you have. I could care less about who you know. I want to know how good you are at what you do. And AI can help with that, with some of the assessments it might ask, or really like honing in on what you put on your resume, which I think is very important, as applicants. Like I can't tell you how many people apply to a role. For example, I'm looking for a platform engineer, and they have to have Google Cloud, they have to have Golang, they have to have Prometheus, certain things, Terraform, these things they really need. And then, on the LinkedIn application, it will say, how many years of this do you have? How many? And they'll say 6 and 6 and 6. And then I get the resume. There isn't even the word Google on the resume, or Golang or Terraform. And it's really frustrating. So maybe that's somebody who's using the bulk apply, or maybe that is somebody who is just being careless. So I'm not going to take up 45 minutes of my time and meet with you if you can't even be bothered to put it on your resume. So if you are not tailoring your resume for each and every job you submit to, chances are you're going to get rejected unless your resume fits that job so closely you don't need to, right? So you really, really got to pay attention to that. I think candidates are doing themselves a disservice by not being thoughtful about that, right? I know everyone says, oh, email the recruiters on LinkedIn and blah, 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 blah. That becomes noise because we get thousands of those emails on LinkedIn. And what we want to see is the skills. We want to see the skills on the resume. So we are not wasting time talking to someone who lied on their application or was just too careless. If you're careless to not answer the question or to not put that on your resume, if you're that careless, why would we want you to work at our company, right? I want, think about that mentally. So whenever you look for a job, you have to treat it like a job. You really do. You have to take it that seriously, especially in the crazy job market we've had, since COVID. It's been up and down and good and bad and all kinds of insanity. And then just now with these mass applies and all of this, you really have to get yourself through the noise. So yeah, all of that. And then I would say there is hopefully going to be opportunities to make that faster process with AI. So I can have that tool that will tell me all the people who applied who there is no mention of any of the skills I'm looking for on their resume, right? Because that to me is just, why are you wasting my time, right? Because I'm not getting to this really qualified candidate. He's waiting around for 2 weeks and now he's moved on to something else because I've been too busy staring at these 200 resumes that came before him that are completely not a fit. So there you go on that.
Oh, that's great. We have a question that's just related to this from Joe, which I think is a helpful one. He asks, what are some ways to get through the noise? So I suppose for people who
Mhm.
are qualified, they match the skills. How do they make sure that you see them? Is there any advice on that?
So I would say if you're going to send an email to a recruiter, like try and get their work email, not like send them a thing on LinkedIn. I get literally like 70 of those a day. And if I could answer them, I would. I just don't have the time. I really don't. Some days I want to go on LinkedIn and post something or whatever, but I am swamped, right? Knee deep in it. So if you are going to do the outreach, and that's fine, try and get their work email, be very respectful. Um, I, my name is Hilary, right? And this one candidate, name will go unmentioned, that is interested in a job with our company, and he keeps emailing me. He's not qualified, he's too junior, but he keeps calling me Hill. Hey, Hill. Hey, Hill. And I'm like, why are you calling me Hill? How do you even know that I go by that? Which I don't, right? So I'm like, be smart, like address people like properly. You don't have to be super formal, but like just be smart about how you do that. Like, don't be weird. And make sure you're qualified. Like if you are a junior engineer, let's say, you don't have 10 years experience and you're applying for a staff level role at, a very well-known crypto company or wherever, OpenAI, you're most likely not going to get that because a staff level role, you need to be able to be a leader, to be a mentor, to have that wisdom and experience that you gained in all those years of employment versus somebody who's had, let's say, 7 years, right? So I'm not saying it is not possible, but in most cases, it's just not possible, right? We need those seasoned people with those leadership and mentorship backgrounds and who really had that depth of experience to be a staff level engineer. So, do yourself a favor and don't waste your own time. Don't waste the company's time. And please do not reach out to everyone on LinkedIn that works at the company. Please, please, please. And if you send 2 emails to a recruiter and they don't respond, chances are they're not going to. So just move on and don't like keep emailing them every 2 days, right? That's just a way to like get under their skin. But that same with that emailing everyone in the company or everyone on LinkedIn, it makes people, it makes candidates, not intentionally, obviously, because they really want to work at a company and they really want to get this job, but it makes you look like this person is a little bit off. Why are they reaching out to every single one? Why are they reaching out to our head of sales when they should just be applying like through normal channels, right? And if you are going to, like, let's say, email me, give me every reason why you are a really great fit for the job at the beginning of the outreach. To be honest, I don't need you to like flatter me, and I don't need any of that. I just need you to say, hey, saw this job. I'm really excited about it. Here's why I'm such a great fit for it. Also, it's okay, I think, to be bold, right? When you're looking at resumes all day long and you see these resumes, like, it is white noise at a certain point. Like, your eyes just want to pop out of your skull because they all look the same. They're all in the same format. So many people like crush it all together. Like, especially I've seen it with tons of tech resumes where it's so much information and there's no white space. It's hard to look at even. It's hard to even dig into that resume. So I would say really concentrate on your technical skills, but maybe like try something new with your resume format. Make it a little bit different. I would say for sure, if you are like a front end engineer or someone who's very heavy into design, like I want to see that on your resume. If you're just sending me like a average Joe type of resume, no offense to Joe who asked this question, that is not going to work for me because I want to see, oh, wow, I can tell this person really has a passion for design because look at this beautiful layout of their resume. And I'm sorry, I could talk and talk and talk about this, but in a nutshell, that's kind of where I see that.
That's wonderful. It's clear that you have a very full inbox, and I think that that's a really important thing.
Sorry.
No, I think it's really important for candidates to understand that's the experience on the other side
Yeah.
and
And,
getting
and,
those
and I
red.
do want to say one last thing. Sorry, Rachel. I do want to say one last thing. Don't ever be insulted if somebody's not responding to your email or to your LinkedIn email. Understand it is literally not you. It's just we all have our jobs to do and things to do, and you can't respond to every single one that comes through in recruitment. Or if you're a hiring manager, a lot of times hiring managers get inundated. They don't have the time or the wherewithal. But just don't get insulted and don't think you're being ignored. In a lot of cases, it's not even being seen, right? So just keep that in mind and understand, like, nobody's like, oh, I hate that Joe guy who emailed me 50 times, right? Like, they might even not have seen it. So don't feel bad.
Yeah,
Or
persevere.
Joe is getting abused today.
No, it sounds like you found them helpful. Thanks for your question, Joe. That was a great addition to I forgot who asked the original question. Um,
Chris.
so the next question we have here is about skill building and learning. So Yasha asks, how does one prepare for a research scientist role without publications in an AI journal or a PhD in AI?
Yeah, Yasha, I was super excited about this question because it wasn't one I was expecting, right? And I happen to work with a research scientist who works with AI, and she is absolutely freaking amazing. And I have my own ideas of what a good answer to this is, but coming from an actual research scientist, she gave me some really good information. And her thing and my thing is like, coding is very essential, right? It has to become an essential tool for your data analysis, for your simulations, and for managing large data sets, all of that. So you have to learn to write really good code. Use it for useful GitHub repositories that maybe solve, let's say, bioinformatics problems, et cetera, with AI. It's way more important than writing papers. So just remember that it's way more important that you get really good at these technical skills. And when you do, you're going to be way more helpful to the community way sooner. Also, your wet lab experience is really important, right? Everybody's so fascinated with AI and doing things in this, cloud version of reality. But honestly, that wet lab experience is super important as well. And the good code and all those good things you do is what's going to lead with the papers and publications. And to be honest about like not having a PhD in AI or any other area, I wouldn't worry so much about that, because these are they are learnable skills. It's all learnable if you apply yourself and you take the time to learn it. Do those courses we were talking about, get like an associate degree, a mini degree, anything, or just learn it on your own. I love self-taught people. I love self-taught people. Our CTO at Flexa is self-taught. He's amazing. And also, learn those things like NLP, natural language processing, protein structure, protein language models, inverse protein folding, right? Deep learning. Like if you're, whatever space of research you're in, those are kind of the areas you want to get into, to do some really, really amazing work. And then once you get going, showcase your projects, right? You put them on GitHub, LinkedIn, your own personal website or blog. I would also, we talked about this earlier, go find a research foundation, or like rare compute, for example. Like what we're doing is solving rare diseases through the blockchain, tokenized compute, and AI, right? We're taking proteins and seeing, like, modeling them out. If we do this to this protein, this is how it will react. And then you can actually try and model out, but what are the repercussions of that? Are there going to be any negative repercussions, positive repercussions, right? And that's what we're looking to do, is solve rare diseases and create therapies and all of these really good things. Do free work. That is like a big thing. Just do free work, right? It makes a big difference. Like, I don't take a penny from rare compute, and it doesn't matter, because we're improving our community and we're doing some really cool stuff, and that kind of stuff changes the world, right? So I would say dedicate some time, right? It doesn't have to be a full time or anything. Usually, it might be 10 hours a week, 5 hours a week, whatever you can donate, but, do that. Go ahead and do it. There you go.
Oh, I love what a great answer. I love that, like, just call to get involved. Very interesting to hear about. Thank you. Um, so the next question we have is, how much weight does AI hold? So Ed asked two questions. I'll read them together, but we can start with one. So what distinguishes a standout candidate in AI hiring processes compared to more traditional tech roles? And then how much weight do recruiters place on AI specific experience, especially right now, versus general product management or engineering experience? So maybe.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's going to vary greatly on the company. I will tell you this, like, so let's say, excuse me, that you are a product manager. Generally, if you're going into an AI company, there's a high chance that you're going to be, leading that AI product development, right? You're going to be on that team in some way or another. And so you really do need to gain those skills. So a lot of those will be AI specific. But it was funny because I thought it was a really interesting question, which is why, I really like that one, because it's just different. And I did some research this morning, and I was looking at product managers and AI and just kind of open roles right now. And a lot of them were extremely specific, like, you need 2 years of this and 2 years of, machine learning and this and that. But then I saw some that were working knowledge, right, of ChatGPT and, things like that, right, and other language learning models, and not like specific, you need to have, 2 years training in natural language processing or things like that. So it really, like, just do your research, right? And I think a great way is to offer up that knowledge for free. Again, I know I keep spouting that off, and a lot of you are probably like, but I don't want to work for free. Nobody wants to work for free, right? But it's just something you do, and it'll make you feel good, and you will learn. Even if it doesn't make you feel good, you will learn. And that's the whole point of it, right? And, take those free courses, take the one on Google, right? You can get certified. So take that. So I wanted to address that piece first because I just thought it was really, really interesting. And then the first part of your question was what distinguishes a standout candidate in AI hiring compared to more traditional tech roles. So this was a great question because I work with a head scientist of machine learning at Rare Compute, Stanley Bishop, and he's amazing. He's also Rare Compute's co-founder. He's co-founder of LilyPad, all these amazing organizations, and Stanford University. I worked with him on a project for that. So lots of really cool stuff. And his answer was really different than I expected. And I think everyone at his level might have a different answer, but his was just unique. And he told me, he said, the biggest and most boring piece of this is that he is looking for people who are really good at math. He said, someone with a high pure math proficiency is one of his biggest factors. He says a lot of times he'll hire people who really have very little to do with AI, other than, knowing what it is, right? But they're really good. They're mathematicians. He's like, I will hire a mathematician with limited coding experience because it's easier to teach them how to use AI for the coding than to teach the math. But increasingly, machine learning builders are creating systems that are going to interact with the day-to-day activities of humans. They're built to use the data and expertise in humans, and they need to be tuned. They need to be taught. So he said math is very big for him. And also people who, like how he put it was, have a really good bedside manner, because the skills I just mentioned, he said, that's a huge dimension of interpersonal and operational skills, right? You have to have a good understanding of the human system you're interacting with to know how to approach building and deploying it, right? So, not only is math great, but also you have to really know how to be a human. And that seems like, well, I am a human, right? But really someone who can really deep dive into that and understand like how people think about things, right? Like it seems so common nature to us, but what are those processing thoughts that you go through to get to a certain place? And I found that just a really intriguing answer. And it's just a really great dimension to think about AI and how to get into it, right? And then obviously, there's always going to be those fundamental skills. Like you may not have experience in an AI company, for example, but let's say you have Python, R, C++, and Java, and you've been doing this for a long time now. You're really good at all these things. Those are fundamental languages for AI, right? Those are, think Python, oh my gosh, right? You're really great at Python. You've got that under your belt already, right? And so really start learning those skills. And again, contribute to projects, start doing your own projects, right? Like get into those, dig into GitHub and find some work you can contribute on, right? Just do whatever you need to do. And I think that will make all the difference. And one thing I wanted to mention is like 65% of people in business, like business leaders, like now, and this is like, I think this is like a huge like change from the year prior, right? Like won't hire someone if they don't have AI skills. And some will even prefer someone with really strong AI skills that's maybe less experienced, or in Stanley's case, someone with really good math skills who's maybe not that strong at AI at all, but can math and do some coding, and he can teach them the rest, right? And then hiring for technical AI roles, and this is a really good thing to encourage you guys, again, to go out, learn, do coursework, work on free projects, whatever it is, has increased by over 325% in the last year. That's huge. That's enormous, right? Like, and it's only going to keep going. So, there's so much good stuff there, and we could like talk about this for literal hours, which I'm sure none of you want to do, but we could, there's so
Well,
much more
there's
to
someone
see
out
there.
there who would love that. I love that takeaway that it's people who understand humans that might be the best, or like what people are looking for when it comes to AI.
Yeah, like if you hate interacting with other people, like you just don't like other people, that might not be a good fit for you.
Yeah.
And one last thing I want to say on AI and blockchain and getting into those spaces is ask yourselves why. Ask yourselves why it's so important to you. And I think that's really, really important, right? Is it important because you're really intrigued by it? You think it's so cool and you want to find out more, you want to know more, you want to get into this space as working somewhere, whether technical, engineer, non-technical, et cetera? Or is it because the clout, right? There's a certain clout with saying you're an AI engineer or you're a crypto engineer, whatever, right? Chicks dig it, right? But what I mean is, really like think about the why, because if that's the why, that's probably not a good reason. You can go work in a million other industries as an engineer and get paid just the same. So ask yourself why you want to do it. And always follow your passion, right? And so if for example, you're really excited about healthcare and like all the advances we're making, then maybe you want to get into, biotech companies, right? And go to a DeSci company that, like Rare Compute or something similar, that is working to solve these rare diseases. And same with anything. If you're really artistic, and you're also really technical, then become a really great front end engineer at one of these platforms. Generally, for a front end engineer, you're not going to have to know tons about the blockchain, right? You're just going to have to be really good at making their stuff look really cool, right? So I think there's just so many options and different ways to think about it.
Awesome. Thanks so much. So now we can move on to live questions. I'm gonna open up my get like my guest view so I can see if anyone raises their hands. Let me just do that quickly. And I'm gonna scroll through to see if I've missed any questions along the way. We picked up on some that were related to what we're talking about. And thank you so much for doing research into what other people's inputs are on
It's
something.
so important, right? Because I mean, I would be an idiot to say I know it all.
Yeah.
Although I don't know it all. Like if I had a podcast, it would be I know it all. No, just
I
kidding.
I feel like that's good advice to candidates too, to like that's the kind of research you should bring to an interview, is like looking at and kind of prospecting what the questions might be. Um, okay, let me see here. Don't want to miss ones that came at the beginning.
Yeah, and I think it's always come humble, right? I've interviewed candidates who ask, like, to pretend that they know something that they don't do that. If you have limited experience, just be transparent about it. If there's something you're not, you can't be expected. And I think this is like a misnomer, especially in engineering, right? That you have to be an absolute expert in every single skill listed on the job description. And generally there's a lot of things that fold over. Like for our front end, right? We're looking for someone with React, right? But I've discovered some really good talent who are more on the view side of things. And, our thought process is, well, if they are freaking amazing, we'd be dumb not to talk to them, right? So it's just be honest. And, if you're not, I always remember the candidates who are really honest with me. And then 2 years later, they come back and we hire them, right? Because they learned what they didn't know. And that to me is like, I love that.
Yeah, I love that you said that you loved kind of autodidacts, like people who are into self-learning and everything. I feel like things are changing so quickly, you kind of have.
That's the thing. We all have to be nowadays. I was a super early adopter of AI when everyone else in like talent acquisition and HR was like what's ChatGPT? You know, I was all over it deeply because I just thought it was so exciting and so cool. And so I really like immersed myself in it. And so, you know, it's really exciting to go talk on it to other people in talent acquisition and how to use it best and all the cool things you can do. It's remarkable what you can do on so many levels. So it is exciting. Does make me want to learn.
I have a question in the chat from Ashish.
Mhm.
Nowadays, most of the job descriptions for entry level roles, new grad roles, require 2+ years of experience. Should one still apply if they don't have this experience?
That's a great question. I I always find that a really dumb thing, right? Like if you don't have, if it's an entry level role, that's not really entry level because you're asking for 2 years of experience, right? So, Ashish, I'm there with you on that. That's just a dumb way to do things. I would say this, I would still apply, but in the interim, while you're looking and you're applying to these roles, start working, you know, on as many projects as you can. Like find those people in on the, you know, on Discord or Telegram or wherever you want to look for them on X, wherever, and find those people who are looking for help on a project and start doing that work because you can. I mean, just because you're not paid for something doesn't mean it didn't happen. It was still a role, it was still a job, it was a volunteer job, right? And I love seeing that on people's resumes because it shows me they are intent on learning and they are intent on, you know, they're open to helping others, you know, by doing free work, things like that. And you can even list it as a job. You don't even have to list it as volunteer, right? Because it is actually you are doing something for this company. You are just unfortunately not being paid, but that starts getting that experience under your belt, right? So even let's say you get a job outside of AI or blockchain, you become an engineer, I don't know, at let's just say Visa or something like that. While you're doing that, use your extra time to get that work on those projects so you can keep that building on your resume. That makes sense.
Absolutely. I have a question here from Sean. Sean, do you want to read ask it out loud? No pressure. I can't, I feel
We're
like
all looking at you.
he was unmuted for a second. Okay, I will read it out. But interrupt me if I'm misreading it. Oh, something's wrong with his mic. Okay, I'll read it. So, what roles should I apply for, sorry, if you're trying to transition from a non-technical role to a technical role? Right now, I'm taking a course online, doing my own self projects, and actively participating in AI communities.
That's awesome, first of all. I would say, you know, we talked about all those different roles like community management. I think community management is kind of a cool way to start because um, it's one of those roles where a lot of times they'll take someone who maybe was a coordinator somewhere or you know not someone who is going to have so much in-depth experience, especially at a newer organization, right? Where they're, you know, kind of deers in the headlights themselves a little bit, right? And they need all the help they can get. So I think that community manager role is really just a cool role. And obviously, like the bigger the community gets, that can lead to a very senior level person doing that role, right? So it doesn't mean like everyone who's in that is junior. It means that there's going to be various levels of that, but you know, you got to start somewhere. I would also say it depends on your personality, right? Some people are great at it, some people run away from it, but I would say business development and sales. That's a really great way to get in entry level somewhere and start learning it, right? As like a junior sales rep or account manager. Another great way, and this is like just came to me as we're kind of talking through this, is there's a lot of great companies that in talent acquisition, for example, that have created these great tools like Talent Llama. That's a good one. And they've created this really great interview tool specifically for engineering, which I think is awesome, right? And they might need salespeople. They might need people to be customer success people, right? Where they'll train you to get on with new customers and show them how to use these tools, right? So in that role, you're actually doing and learning and making an income, right? So you've gotten into the field and you're learning as you go. Those are really good opportunities to get in kind of on that ground floor. Customer success managers are awesome. Like everybody needs someone that gets started with a new tool they've purchased, right? Which would in many cases be an AI tool. So I think those are really, really good places to start. Yeah, I think those would be my top three would be customer success, community management, and business development and sales.
Awesome. Um, he said thank you. Uh, and Sander, I realized you had a question right up at the top of our chat that I've missed. I wonder if you want to ask it out loud. If not, no pressure. I will read it for you. I just love to hear people's voices. Okay. Let's keep his mic off. I'm going to read it. I have to scroll back up to it. So Sanders said, I'm an experienced data scientist of 15 plus years, but I've had no success to join a startup. I applied to all the open positions on Wellfound, and I'm located in Canada. What do I do? Only several companies connected to me, but all of them have no money, which I assume probably means that they were equity roles or like a early founding team. But feel free to clarify if you want, Sandra.
Yes. Sandra, I feel for you. I really, truly do. And I think like that is a thing, right? There's certainly enough AI and things like that going on in Canada, right? And I think that it might be a matter of time. And I will say this, with 15 years of experience, right? You're really good at what you do, I'm sure. They are probably finding candidates that have that same years of experience and then may have had some AI experience or, I don't know if I missed it, I'm sorry. I don't know if you've taken the courses or not, any courses on it or not, but maybe that's something you can do in your spare time. Get in on one of those free projects we were talking about. I know I gotta tell you guys, I know it's so frustrating. I know it's really, really frustrating when you really want something and it's very hard to break into. And I have heard the craziest stories of how people got into blockchain, for example. I read this story and I apologize, I don't remember all the details. And this young woman, I want to say she was in her 20s at the time, she was at a Halloween store and she had tried on this giant panda costume and she had this giant panda head on her head. And some guy comes up to her and clunks her in the head, like strikes her in the panda head. And this poor girl is just like, what the heck just happened? And she had been thinking, she was really, it's like really interested in like blockchain and crypto and learning about it, but she hadn't, really gotten into it yet. And she happened to post on, I want to say it was probably Twitter at the time, about this incident. And a CEO from a crypto company who probably was in her algorithm, she thinks, because she was looking at the same kind of things he was, so popped up and had commented or liked her post or something to that nature. And so she DM'd him and said, hey, thank you so much for commenting, blah, blah, blah. I'm really interested in getting into your field. And he hired her, right? So there's going to be these really wacky stories of how these people got. And I think if you Google it the right way, you can probably find it. But it is the craziest story. And now she's like a really big name in it, right? So can I post on X to get recruiters interested? I just saw that pop up. That's a good one too. You could reenact the panda story. I don't know how it would pan out for you. But that's a tough one, right? Because I think there is that noise thing, right? And unfortunately that is a thing where everybody reaches out and then nobody gets heard. That's a big problem lately. It used to be a secret thing where like candidates were like afraid to reach out. They were like, oh, I don't want to bother them. I don't want to upset them. I don't want them to reject me because I reached out. And now it's like everybody reaches out. And not only do they reach out once, they reach out like 3 times. So it's feast or famine, right? Neither way is good or bad. It just is what it is. But I would say, you guys like figure out that way to write your own story. I know it's so hard to do. I fell into blockchain because of rare compute. I mean, I know we had to wrap up here, but I found rare compute because I have a rare disease. And I got connected to someone on LinkedIn who has the same rare disease that I do. And he introduced me to these people at Stanford who got me into this AI project because I had AI experience. So I got into that. And then that's how I met Stanley and Amelie, that research scientist I was talking about. And there we are. And there I am at Rare Compute. And then that led to Flexa. And so you can build your own story. And sometimes, like for me, it happened in the weirdest way. So it can happen that way for you guys too. I think that's a good way to wrap it up. And feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. If I can offer any more advice, I will. But thank you guys so much for having me.
Oh, thank you so much, Hillary. I know we've got some questions here, and I'll try my best to answer them when I'm sending the resources that we're going to send as a follow-up email to everyone. I'll take a look at the chat to make sure we address them.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming. Alejandro is just put like a short survey into the chat. It would be wonderful to have some responses to that. This is a new program. We're so excited to have speakers like Hillary join us, and getting some feedback on how this went and how we can improve would be wonderful for us to hear. But thank you again, Hillary. This was a wonderful session. I was really glad to hear people's voices in the chat and out loud. Yeah, we just really appreciate your insights and your unique point of view, and all the research that you did to prepare for today. That was really, really thoughtful. Thank you again.
Yeah, and one last thing, I have been in all of your shoes where I have been in that position where I wanted to get into a field and I couldn't get hired to save my life. So I feel it. I know what it's like. So, I'm there with you. Just
And it's
understand that.
possible.
I feel it all.
And it's possible. I love that ending with, what's your own story? You'll find your own story through this. Love that. Awesome, Hillary. Thanks again.
All right, thanks guys. Bye-bye.
Bye. And reach out to us at at Gmail, talent@wellfound.com if you've got any questions about applying on Wellfound. We're the other people on the other end. Okay, bye y'all.